Jeff?
All right, Gina, thank you very much. A few years ago, at the height of our high-rise building boom, all you needed was a website and a promise. But as we well know, the market cooled, and only those with the connections, the know-how, and the financing actually put steel in the ground. It's the subject of a new book, Manhattanizing Las Vegas. This is the second updated edition following the evolution of Las Vegas's building boom. I'm joined tonight by developer and author Paul Murad. Mr. Murad, welcome. Thanks for coming back in our program. You wrote the first book 3 years ago. So what changed in 3 years? I mean, we obviously the market crashed and all that stuff, but what fundamentally changed in 3 years, do you think?
Well, you know, to make a good comparison, it's as if Manhattanization was going on the highway and now it got into the school zone. And then on top of that, there are some speed bumps along the way.
Yeah.
So, you know, those who are still going fast got stopped in their way, and those projects have fallen out. Things are really slow. It's more difficult than ever to get a high-rise project off the ground, and I think as a result of it, we're going to see more mid-rise and low-rise projects emerge.
Why is it more difficult than ever to get a high-rise? I mean, obviously the credit crunch, financing is not easy to get in this current environment, but is it a combination of financing and construction costs that just are essentially sinking all of these people at this point?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then also not only financing for the projects, but then also financing for the buyers. And because of that, less people are able to qualify to buy, less people have cash to put down for a purchase. People are just scared because of the hype associated, negative hype. We had positive hype, now we have negative hype.
So of the folks, I mean, you think back 3 years ago and everybody had a project on the drawing board, and we expected to see downtown and the whole area coming toward the Strip, nothing but high rises, and obviously that was an oversell. But the people who did get the steel in the ground, what did they do right that everybody else missed?
A lot of them just were lucky, and they hit the right timing. And so they recognize it as well. There were some people who were first-time developers and hit the right spot, got the product sold, got the projects built. And there were others who executed well, and it was a matter of timing. A lot of people caught it right, some people caught it on the wrong side.
So you say that what we're going to be seeing going forward now is lower to mid-rise developments. How do you define a mid-rise?
Well, a low-rise is anything up to 5 stories, and a mid-rise is 5 to 15. And anything higher than that becomes a high-rise.
And just easier to pencil out, which is why they're going in that direction as opposed to a high-rise?
It's less expensive to build, especially the low-rises. And the less expensive to build, the time frame to build is a lot less. We know that if the project runs behind schedule significantly, gets into trouble, as we've seen with Cosmopolitan and some of the others. So it's a number of factors that make it more feasible, and then because of the cost of that unit is significantly less, more people can afford it, and you might be able to get even into attainable housing or affordable housing if you get the property, the land right.
The high-rises were geared really to the out-of-towners who wanted to come in here and have a second home. Who are the mid-rises? Same kind of customer? I mean, is that ideally the same kind of clientele we're going after? Or does the clientele change now as you go to a different kind of project?
It changes, and now it becomes more of the local professionals. And I think the gas prices are going to impact the Manhattanization as well. Our gas is going to be going to $5 a gallon. People are not going to want to drive as much. They're going to get smaller vehicles and live closer to the heart of the city, closer to the work.
What about the condo hotel craze? I mean, a few years ago, that's all you heard about: condo hotel, condo hotel. Well, how do you see that developing?
I think that's slowing down dramatically, and it has already, because people have seen some of the first couple of projects. They realize that they perhaps bought into the hype again of thinking that things are going to appreciate dramatically. Maybe by the time the building is built, they'll be able to flip it. They thought they're going to make a lot of money, and it's not really an investment vehicle. It should never be considered and bought as one. It's more of a vehicle for ownership of real estate, for a second or third, a vacation home that you can use, and then you can also rent out and get some cash flow, but only as a subsidy. It's not something that's going to cover your expenses of owning that property, but only a subsidy towards your cost of owning the property.
What about when you get out to the other parts of the valley? I mean, we've been talking about downtown and that type of thing, but when you get like into the more suburban parts of town, as it were, do you see, does the mid-rise have a future out there, or not? What do you see out there?
Definitely low-rise has, and mid-rise in some areas that are highly dense. Areas like Summerlin, where you could potentially maybe walk or have a short drive to some of the amenities. The key is to minimize the use of transportation and be able to walk to places. And gas prices are only an incentive for that.
What do you think of projects, for example, like Sullivan Square has run into some legal wrangling. There's a kind of a nasty fight brewing between some of the principals of the project. But like these big suburban projects that were on the drawing board like a year or two ago, I mean, do you think like a Sullivan Square, will it ever see the light of day, do you think, something like that?
Well, they're already doing some site work, and it was a strong project. It was the strongest project in that whole area of Southwest, where we saw the Curve, we saw some of the other ones, Spanish View Towers fall out, and it's really hard to have an urban project in the suburban setting, because obviously people who live in the suburbs want to have a suburban lifestyle, a house with a pool and all that it entails. So it's hard to see an urban product in the suburbs unless it's a certain concentration of suburbs like we see in Summerlin. With Sullivan Square, any time you deal with someone out of town or a lender out of the country, there's additional complication, and then if you have problems, it's hard to work things out when you don't see each other face to face and don't live in the same community.
What do you think about the recovery? I mean, now people are saying, look, maybe the second half of 08, early 09, we should begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, what's your take on when things might improve around here?
I think it's going to be 2 or 3 years, and hopefully it's a lot sooner. But I'm trying to be conservative, and I think that in the next 2 years, next year perhaps, we're going to start seeing some of the recovery, and it's going to be dependent on the credit markets and the banks, and they've really pulled back dramatically from financing projects. And so we need to see a lot of changes in the credit environment and the buyers. And I think, meanwhile, the international buyers are going to come to the rescue and buy up properties.
Well, especially now with the dollar. I mean, the dollar it's a fire sale on the dollar right now.
That's right. So I think we're going to need to see more Europeans come in here to purchase up properties.
Which would help somebody like a city center, for example. I mean, that would be a lot of international interest in city center or something like that.
Absolutely. And then while city center is promoting their project, those who see their advertisements and hear about the project also look at other options in Las Vegas. I've seen more sales of my book internationally in Europe and Asia now than ever before, because those people hear about projects such as City Center. They're part of that target audience of that multi-million-dollar campaign, and then they look at Las Vegas in general and look at other projects and options. And I've seen that personally through the book.
Sure. Mr. Murad, we're out of time. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it very much.
It's good to be here.
And you're watching News 1. We'll be right back.